Hi, it's Bonnie with another Tuesday's tip. And today's tip is more like a real project. So I just thought this was too much fun to keep to myself, and a friend of mine named Debbie Henry did a project using one of our sets from the Nativity scene, or set of designs, and I just thought it was so fun and cute that I just had to share it. So anyway, I'm going to go over to the computer and see that we are set up, because I know we have about a 10-second lag on our Facebook Live. So if you're here, you might give me a shout out, a hi or a like or something, so that I know you're here, so that we can go ahead and get started. This was a fun project. It was really quick and easy to do. I did run into a couple of little snafus, but I want to share those with you so that you can avoid my boo-boos. Because isn't that what this is all about, is sharing our tips and secrets of what works and what doesn't work. I love sharing ideas with other folks. So I see that we might have a couple here. I'm going to refresh my page, because I don't want to have anybody miss anything. Okay, I see that there are a few people here. So let's go ahead and get started. Again, what this is called today is embroidering on candles. Now, I hope that you will sign up for our newsletter. You can do that at www.soinspiredbybonnie.com. And if you miss this video live, I share it on our YouTube channel. You can do go to YouTube and do a search for So Inspired by Bonnie, or I also post it on our Pinterest page. So, how do you embroider on candles? There's a couple of things to consider. One is the design itself, and the other is, oh, we have someone from Australia. Hi, Sue. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. Is over here from Australia. Cool. How to embroider on candles. There's a couple of things to consider. The first being what design you're going to use. Now, I wanted, or I should say Debbie wanted her design to illuminate through the candle itself. So you need a sheer kind of design, or I should say an open kind of design. Freestanding lace would work because they're kind of open. But she wanted to use something that wasn't freestanding. She wanted to use our Nativity set because it's nice. And let me get a picture of, because I didn't grab an actual stitch out. I should have, but I didn't before going live here. I do have a print out of her instructions, which are excellent, by the way, and I will put a link to her instructions. I think it's up above. I'll post a picture in the comments below later on, but here's a picture of one of the designs that she used from our Nativity set. And as you can see, it's not red work, but it does have a lot of open areas in the design. One of the parameters that you do need on your design is it needs a nice satin stitch outline, a nice solid satin stitch outline, so that you have something to trim up next to. But other than that, you know, any design. If you weren't concerned about it showing through, you could use a denser design, but we wanted it to look light and airy, so this Nativity design is the perfect design set for this particular project. The other thing you need to consider is what kind of fabric are you going to use. Since it's not a freestanding lace design, you need something to hold all those stitches together once your stabilizer is taken away. And what she recommended, and I wholeheartedly agree, is to use either organza, and did I put my organza down somewhere? I may have, to use either organza, I'll just grab this, which is nice and very, very sheer, or, and I store all my tulle and organza in a little bag that I got from a set of sheets. I saved those bags because they're so handy for various things. And I fold them up, and then I put a bobby pin on my tulle scraps or yardage, as it were, in here. And then I put them in this bag so that I have all my tulle and organza together, because I use tulle sometimes as a topper for designs that are on nap fabric, sometimes even on towels. It just depends. If you want things to hold down permanently, tulle works really great. But I would recommend, if you're going to use tulle for this project, make sure that it's a nice tulle that has very, very thin or tiny holes. You don't want the bigger, heavy, thick tulle. You want a nice, thin, flexible tulle that you can see through. The other option, like I said, was organza, which is also very sheer. There's no holes in it. It's a little bit more of a smooth surface. So that's why I chose the organza, because I thought it would look a little bit nicer on the candle. And what Debbie recommends, let me get this out of the way. I see a few more have shown up. Hi, guys. What Debbie recommends, oh, here's my organza. It was under the hoop. But this is kind of, it's very, very sheer, even doubled up, tripled up, whatever. It's very pliable. So that being the case, Debbie recommended using 2 layers of the organza or the tulle just to give the design a little bit more body. Again, we're not working with a freestanding lace design, so it needs a little bit of body to hold up after we take all the stabilizer away, and we're going to trim really close to the design, so we're taking a lot of the fabric away too. So she recommended getting 2 layers, and to take your spray adhesive, I use KK100, it's great. You're going to want to spray it obviously away from your electronics or your excuse me, sewing machine, but you're going to just spray really lightly over one of the pieces, and then lay the second piece on top. Now what she did was she cut these pieces to the size of her inner hoop that she was using. So if you're using a 5x7 hoop, measure the inside of the hoop. I think it was, you know, around 6x8 or 6x9, and just smooth it out with your hands to get rid of any lumps or bumps that you may have. And this is creepy crawly stuff, so it's not going to lay perfectly even on the outer edges. That's fine. It's not a problem because those are going to be trimmed away anyway. You're going to hoop water-soluble stabilizer. Now the type of water-soluble stabilizer she recommended, and I agree with, is this mesh kind. It's a non-woven, but it kind of looks like fabric, but it's not. I don't recommend the plastic kind because it's not as easy to wash away by the time you get it dense enough to not perforate under the heavy satin stitching. So this is the same kind of stabilizer that I recommend for freestanding lace, which is, it looks more like a fabric. 1 layer is fine. And then you're going to take your organza or tulle, whatever you decide to use, and just lay it on top of your hoop. So it's just laying in there. Then you're going to take your design that you chose and either add a basting stitch to it in your software, or many machines you can automatically add a basting stitch at the machine. I know a lot of you think you don't have a basting stitch in your machine, and I know with the Baby Lock and Brother machines, almost all of you have a basting stitch. If you have the frames feature on your embroidery machine with a Baby Lock or Brother machine. You can take the frame feature, use the straight stitch frame, resize it to fit around the outside edge of your design, and that in essence will create a basting stitch. Now on the frames feature, the bigger you make the frame, the larger the basting stitch becomes. That's just kind of one of those idiosyncrasies of the frame stitch within the Baby Lock Brother machine, but there is a workaround for most everyone, even if you don't have software or think you don't have a basting stitch in your machine. You might have one. I'm not sure about the other brands. If they have a frame feature that's just a straight stitch, you might be able to do that too if you do have something similar. So take your design, or excuse me, take the hoop and go to your machine so that you can stitch it out. Now the nativity scene is only 2 colors, and when I was stitching them out last night, they're all under 15 minutes, so they're very quick and easy to sew out. But since the fabric is so translucent and you can see through it, Debbie recommended, and I agree with her, go ahead and load up bobbins to match your thread. So I went ahead and I filled up a couple of bobbins. Well, I didn't fill them up. I probably 3/4 of the way, because I knew that I wasn't going to use a whole bobbin for just these 3 little designs, and matched the bobbin thread to the thread colors that I chose. That being the case, I decided not to do metallic thread on mine. If I were to do metallic thread, I would probably try to match up my bobbin thread. You know, I'm just now thinking of this. I probably could have used metallic thread, but just used a color very similar to the shade of my metallic thread with embroidery thread in the bobbin. I think that would have worked really nicely too. Okay, so once your design is stitched out, and my little baby Jesus is smaller than the 5x7, so I was able to use the 4x4 hoop with him, you will have your design with your organza, the 2 layers of organza, and the basting stitch, and your water-soluble stabilizer. Going to pop that out of the hoop. See, I try to be prepared for you guys and have these designs ready. And this is what you've got. The next step is going to be to remove the basting stitches from the back of your design and to remove the water-soluble. The basting stitches pop out pretty easily. You can just pull those out, and I like to use the point of these scissors to do that. It works really well. And then I like to use my duckbill scissors, my duckbill applique scissors, to cut away the water-soluble stabilizer from the back. You're going to leave the fabric still intact. You're just cutting away the stabilizer, because the less stabilizer you have that you have to wash out, the better. So I'm going to take these duckbill scissors. Now, a lot of people don't know the proper way to hold duckbill scissors, and some people don't know what duckbill scissors are. These are applique scissors, and they're called duckbill scissors. And they have kind of this little funky blade on one side. The proper way to hold these scissors is if you put them on the surface where the blades are resting on the surface. The scissors are holding upright, you can just grab them. So the bill or the blades should be against the surface and your hand up in the air. If you hold them this way, your scissors won't be able to lay down flat on the surface, and so you're not going to get a nice close cut. So again, the way to test yourself is to put the scissors on the flat surface and then put your hand in, and you're holding them the right way. Then you can come in and just trim away the wash away stabilizer from the back of your stitching. Now you can see I went pretty darn close and quick on that, but you can see how nice and close that trims away the water-soluble stabilizer. So once you have all the water-soluble stabilizer cut away, and I'm just going to do this real quick here, you're going to cut it all the way around so you just have just the little design, and then you're going to put that in the water. I put it in a fairly hot water because that gets it out a little bit quicker. But when you're done with that, you're going to come up with a design that sort of looks like this. You're going to have just the fabric and the design, and it looks nice and airy, and it almost looks the same front or back, so that you don't have any risk of any bobbin thread showing through on your candle. The next thing you're going to do is you're going to trim, and you can take your duckbill scissors to do this. You can take whatever are your favorite scissors to do this, and you're going to cut really, really close to the edge of your satin stitching. Very, very close. Now here's my first tip. What I like to do instead of trimming is use what's called a stencil cutter. And on tulle and organza, the stencil cutter just goes through, you see that? It just goes right through the organza. It cuts it like butter. So what I like to do is take my stencil cutter and go along the edge, and that will get nice and close to the edge and cut, and it'll kind of melt the fabric as it's cutting. Oh, there's my puppy dogs announcing a guest. But what that does is it kind of melts the fabric. If you're using polyester thread, I would not just let the stencil cutter rest for very long against the polyester thread, because you could melt the polyester thread a little bit too. So I like to just sort of keep the stencil cutter moving and go along. Now, whoop, it gets really, really hot. That's why I put it way over there, because I didn't want to risk it melting anything, including my fingers over here. Now you might get a couple of little nubbins, what I call nubbins, little areas that poke through. You can take your little shears and kind of trim those up. And since the organza is kind of melted from the stencil cutter, it comes off really easy. But you don't have any risk of anything kind of fraying. I really like the stencil cutter for just kind of going along the edge and trimming it away. And again, it goes rather quick. You can just run it along the edge, and I can't cut that fast or accurately with my scissors going around a little edge. The stencil cutter makes quick work of that. So I really recommend them. They're under 20 bucks, and I use them frequently when I'm doing in the hoop projects. They work great taking off the water-soluble stabilizer on the outer edge if you're doing it in the hoop project. It's really handy. And again, if you have some little areas that are kind of sticking up, you can go in and trim them up and clean them up like that. Easy peasy. So you're going to go around, and it works to get into some of these smaller, tighter areas as well, the stencil cutter. So I really like it. Now, if you happen to accidentally nick or trim your satin stitch a little bit, take a little bit of glue. Debbie recommended some tacky glue, worked really well for her, and I did have some that I pulled out. It's way over there, so I'm not going to get up and go get it, but some tacky glue from Aleene's. You can just put a little bit of glue on that stitch that you accidentally cut, smooth it down, and it'll be just fine, no problems. Okay, so when you're done trimming everything around, you get something that looks like this. And it looks almost the same front and back as I said before. Looks really nice. And then all you have to do is affix it to your candles. Now, I did want to talk about the candles a little bit, because I did run into some issues. First set of candles I picked out were really cool. It was a set of 6, and I thought, well, that'll make a really nice nativity scene. I can add some more designs to it. And then when I got it home and I took it out of the box, it was one of those remote control sets of candles. When I took it out of the box, all the candles were connected with wire. And I thought, well, that's not going to work because I might want to arrange my setup differently than how they just have it arranged. So I didn't like that very much. So be aware of that. If you pick up some candles, make sure that they're not attached at the bottom if you get a set. And then I picked up another set because I don't learn the first time. I picked up another set like this that again were remote controlled, but they weren't attached at the bottom, and I thought, oh, those look really nice. Now I know Debbie said to get 2 6-inches and, you know, a smaller 3-inch size, but this looks big enough for my lady because she's kneeling down, and I thought it would still work. Well, when I got this home and I put my little lady on it, because it goes up and down, which I thought was neat, the little lady's just a bit too large to fit on that. See, she's, you know, a little bit too big. So I'm just letting you know of some of the pitfalls I ran into in making my candle selection, in that when you pick out your design that you're going to use, make sure that it's going to fit on the candles that you pick out, because even though it looks like it might not. So I went ahead and got these, and you can find these LED candles a lot of different places. I got mine, all of the different kinds. The first set that I thought was going to be really cool with the 6, and then that other one that I just showed you, all of those, including these, I got at Bed Bath & Beyond. I've seen candles over at home improvement stores like Lowe's and Home Depot around Christmas time. You can see those there. Kirkland's, I'm sure, has them. Just a lot of places that carry, you know, fun things for the homes would have these LED candles. Another thing that I might mention is in the box, the outer surface looked smooth in that first set that I mentioned with the 6 to, you know, remote control. The outer edge looked smooth on the candle. When I got it home, it was bumpy. You don't want a bumpy surface on the candle if you're going to put embroidery on it, because then you'll have lumpy, bumpy embroidery. And so you need a nice smooth surface on the candle. But then when you're done, like I said, you've got this, you know, all the stitching, or excuse me, all the fabric has been trimmed very, very close to the stitching. Then all you're going to do is you're going to take your tacky glue, and I had intended on having this ready for you today, but since I had to go back to Bath & Beyond and get the candles because I got the wrong candles, I didn't have time to glue them this morning. But you can get an idea. All you're going to do is you're going to put some glue on the edges and the ridges of your embroidery design, and then you're going to attach it to your candle. And this candle's lit, and you can see how that's going to kind of glow through because it's iridescent or translucent, so you can see it kind of shimmer through. Now Terry wrote this morning that she made a set of these a while ago, and she had a lot of fun with them too, and that she puts them in her entryway with the lights down low, and she said it looks really pretty, and I'm sure it does, but you can kind of see how that gives that look of a real live candle because there's a little flicker going on. So, and I figure everybody knows how to glue, so that shouldn't be too tough. But I hope you've learned from my mistakes. Oh, one other little trick that I did to make the project faster was Debbie recommended, after you wash out the water-soluble stabilizer, to lay it on a flat surface to dry, which normally I do that as well. But I was kind of impatient and in a hurry, so I used my blow dryer. I laid it on a flat surface, but I blew it dry with my blow dryer, and these dried remarkably fast. And then I, pressed them nice and flat, and that worked really well too. So I'm going to go back to the computer and see if we have any questions. that I can answer that I didn't answer along the way. And I see Colorado Springs is here again. I'm going to refresh the page here. There we go. Now it's refreshing. It really is a fun project. I can't wait to see some of you try this and show me pictures of how this works out for you. Okay, I see that you are here, but I don't see any questions. So, oh, Donna just asked, where did I get the designs? These designs are part of our Nativity set over at soinspiredbybonnie.com. I will post a link. I think the post will be up above the in the description up above. When I'm done and sign off, I will go ahead and post a link to the Nativity set for those of you that are interested in that. I'm really excited about getting this done. Let's see. Anna's close. Howdy from Denton. That is close. I'm here in Flower Mound, so we're not far apart at all. Sandy said, do you think you could do names to put in candles, or to put on the candles? I don't see why you couldn't. I think you could put names. You might want to do, if I were doing a name, I would probably create just a satin frame outline maybe, you know, an oval shape or something like that. Maybe if you were doing a monogram, just have like you're kind of creating a patch. But I would use, again, the organza or the tulle so that the patch element was, you know, kind of sheer so that you could see through it, and that you just had an outline of a satin stitch on there. I think that could be really pretty. Or you could, you know, any kind of outline that, you know, kind of looked like a satin stitch. Maybe something that was like a rope outline or something along that line could be really pretty. There's usually a way you can get around and do things if you wanted. If the name was nice and heavily satin stitched, I think you could make it work too. On the Joseph here, you see the staff is cut separate from the face and the robe, and so that has a pretty long line there where Debbie cut really close to hers, and I intend on doing the same on mine when I get there. But she cut really close to the staff on hers and then glued that on. So I think you probably could do something like that with lettering. You would just have to be very, very cautious with your trimming or stencil cutting, whichever way you prefer. Annette says that she has made these with Mylar designs, very pretty when lit. I bet that would be really pretty because the Mylar is very translucent as well, and that would shine through really pretty. Lorraine asks, what type of glue are you using to put them on the candles? That's a great question. What Debbie recommended, and I'm going to try, because I haven't actually glued yet because I was too busy getting the wrong candles and having to replace and get new candles. What Debbie recommends is just using tacky glue. Aleene's tacky glue, you can find that at Hobby Lobby or Joann's. It's pretty readily available, and you might want to use you know, just a little bit on it, very, very small amounts, because you don't want the glue to stick out. She also said that once you do have it glued on, go back and check it periodically, because you want to make sure that the edges haven't popped loose while it's drying. So you'll want to be able to kind of check that and make sure that it stays down. Karen says this would make beautiful wedding candles. I agree, Karen. I think that's an excellent idea. I think it would make really pretty for weddings or, you know, anniversary parties or things like that. I think it would be great. Sandy said, how about permanent spray adhesive? That might work equally well. What you would do with that, if I understand you correctly, with the permanent spray adhesive, you would put your design face down, spray the design with the adhesive, and then stick that onto the candle. That might work really well too. If you try that, let us know how it works, because I'd like to know. I think that's a really good idea. As long as the glue doesn't show through. You want to make sure that the glue dries very clear, so that it doesn't mess with the appearance of your design. On the Aleene's tacky glue, it dries clear. You're going to put it just on the little ridges. You're not going to put it all over the fabric area. So that would be my only concern, as long as it doesn't change the appearance of your fabric. What you could try is maybe spray some on some fabric first. See if when it dries, if it dries clear, then it might be a good option. But if it dries and it looks cloudy, I probably wouldn't use it. Alice said, is there some sort of temporary glue that you could use so that the designs could be changed with the seasons? I'm not sure. I don't know if the temporary spray adhesive would work, or if over time it would kind of pop off. I kind of thought of double-sided sticky tape as an option, but again, I'm not sure if that would kind of show up through there or not. You might just have to kind of test with just regular fabric, without a design first, and see how that looks once you put the temporary behind it and lay it on there, and see how it looks first before I would try it with the finished embroidery design. Okay, let's see what else we have here. Linda says, what about Aleene's tack it over and over glue? I think that might work as long as it dries clear. As long as it dries clear, that should work. So that's a good option. Thank you, Linda. Let's see. Annette says, I have also embroidered small designs on bars of soap, glued with decoupage glue. That's a good idea. Now, does the decoupage glue dry clear? That, again, is my only concern, is to make sure, whatever glue you use, make sure that it dries clear, so that it doesn't interfere with how those designs illuminate through or how the candle illuminates through the designs. Okay, I think we've got all our questions answered while we're here live. If you have any questions that you think of after we sign off, please don't hesitate to ask. I'd be more than happy to give you my opinion. I don't know every answer to every question, but I will do my best to find out the answer. I thought this was a really fun project. I hope you will try it with some of your designs. Of course, I hope you will try it with our Nativity set. Again, you can find that at sewinspiredbybonnie.com, and I will post a link to that set if you're so inclined to try that for the season or as a gift or weddings or whatever. I think there's a lot of different uses for them. So I hope you've liked this fun little project. Again, these designs take no more than 15 minutes to stitch out. They're really quick and easy. My hardest part was finding the right candles. And I think if you stick with, the 6-inch for the larger size, and then the little baby Jesus with the 3-inch, you'll be fine. So, and again, make sure that they have a smooth surface. Other than that, it's really a piece of cake. So, I hope you've enjoyed it, and I hope to see you next Tuesday for another Tuesday's tip. I will be back in Colorado again next Tuesday, so we will be doing the Tuesday's tip live from my niece's house. So until then, bye-bye for now.